I'll be making mine while you sit and wonder, saying how did you do it, or how did you do it, or how did you do it.
Hello, and welcome to the Busking podcast with me, Donna. I'm a busker, songwriter, artist, whatever you want to call me, from Tipperary here in Ireland. And the reason I wanted to call this the Busking podcast, I was thinking of calling it the Donna podcast or Donna pod or something along those lines. But I kind of always want to be known and associated with busking because it's given me so much, and it's given me so many good friends and memories, and just taught me so much about people and the kindness in people, and that it's been an amazing way to cut my teeth as a musician and figure out how to write songs. So yeah, that's why. Just to go into a little bit of my busking origin story, I guess. I've always wanted to busk, I suppose. My heroes, particularly Glenn Hansard, Damien Rice, Paddy Casey, they all cut their teeth busking in Dublin. And I think for me, the first act I saw on the street that blew me away were Key West, and that was in Galway. I was in Galway from 2010 to 2014-15 while I was in university, and I've always my grandmother lived in Galway her whole life, so I always have a huge connection with that city. I was born there and brought back to my grandmother's house, so it's just like always been home away from home. So I remember the first time seeing Key West and been blown away. And also I think other buskers can identify with this. I'm the same when I see an amazing live show, both original or cover band. Like when I see something that inspiring, I just really want to do it. Like it's really hard for me, if I'm not playing a lot, to go see a live show or to see someone playing on the street and not be able to play. I find it very hard. Like all I want to do is play live and play my music or play some cover I love. And I've heard other people describe comedy as the same. When they start comedy, like all they want to do is get on stage. They can't watch other comics because they just want to get up and practice material, or they want to write, or and I've met people over the years and talked about this, and just that need to play and how to satisfy that need. But I suppose that need is why I started busking, because I would see Glenn Hansard or Damien Rice busking in Grafton Street, and I'd be like, yeah, they're amazing, but I can do that, So my first real experience busking every day was in Ocean City in 2014, and my uncle had bought me a little street cube. If you are a busker, you kind of know, it's the kind of starting out amp, and it's a great amp. It does have its drawbacks, definitely sound quality and stuff when you start pushing the volume, but it's a great amp. And I went out there, and I'd be on a boardwalk with about averaging 40,000 people walking past me every day. And at the start, I was so bad, I wouldn't last like half hour. I wouldn't last a half hour playing, and I get so discouraged because I'd make no money and I'd have no people stopping. And then you kind of learn what songs resonate with people, whether it's a sad song or a happy song, or the lyrics are poignant. So I kind of learned that whole summer, over those couple of months, how to kind of set myself up and have a nice sign and case and stuff, and how to get people to stop, or how to get like a bit of a party vibe going on the street, or play a particularly sad song, or whatever it is. Or a lot of Irish music can work, you'll find, in the States, because there's huge amount of people have Irish origins or expats or whatever. So that's where I learned kind of how to busk. And then I came home and really focused on pub gigs and started playing in a duo. So busking took a backseat until 2020 when the pandemic hit. And then when it got to Christmas, I was like, right, I'm going to take this seriously, because as I said, you have this need to play live, and I find myself that if I'm not playing live, whether it's busking or pub gig or original gig, if I'm not playing live like once a week, I'm very unsettled in myself. And if I do 2 or 3 kind of live things in a week, I'm really good. Like I can focus on writing or producing or the other side of this whole industry. But if I don't have that live outlet, I find it really difficult to stay sharp. Actually, it's probably the main thing. I get worried about my vocals not being sharp, or my playing, or my communication. And this is the reason I've started this podcast too, is because I feel like my spoken communication isn't actually where I want it to be. For whatever, for radios, for interview, for anything. I just want to be able to communicate and get more comfortable talking, because I find that so much harder than singing. It's often said to me that when you're singing, we understand every word, and then when you're talking, I don't know what you're saying. And that's from the perspective of, say, being in Germany or being in the Canaries, where I've played a lot of music, and people from non-speaking countries, or even people from the UK, have no idea what I'm saying. So that's another reason for the podcast. And I just really want to document kind of what's going on as a busker, as a person trying to really break into the industry with their own music as an artist. So that's what this episode is going to be about. After that preamble, this is all about where I am in my career right now, which is releasing music consistently. Very much have not blown up anything yet. I've gotten a bit of a following online. Have, people messaging me about my music every day, which probably 2 years ago I never had. I'm putting out consistent content, and I'm starting to put on some shows, and I have my first EP ever coming out in October. So that's probably, for me anyway, feels like a massive, massive shift. And I just want to document that and talk about it and mull over thoughts. And then I guess going forward, I just want to be able to sit down and kind of rant about what's going on in the industry and things that happen, and talk to friends. Maybe sit back and have a couple of drinks some night and just talk about industry and what it's like being at this level. So I guess, and this is quite a frustrating part to be in, but I also feel like, I've had nothing going on for so long that it's such a privilege to be where I am right now. Kind of, I'm able to make a living and, live a really nice life, just playing pub gigs and playing my own gigs and busking. And I mean, if you were to tell me that going into college at 18 that I'd be able to do that, I don't know what I would have said. Actually, I was quite a weird teenager, I guess, but I just was pretty aimless, and I could only follow what I love doing really passionately. Like, I went to college, obviously, but that was pretty just, oh, you're going to go to college and whatever. I find maybe that's the way with a lot of Irish people. We're just like, oh, you have to go off to college now, you're finished, you're going off and you'll be a teacher. Maybe it's just here. But all I wanted to do was play music back then. I was in a band. So, if I was to go back to that person and say, hey, like, you'll actually be playing music full time, yeah, I think that would be a good thing. So I have an EP coming out in October, big collaboration on that EP, which is great, and get to announce that soon, and doing some gigs to kind of celebrate that. So I'm doing like a co-headline gig in Whelan's with my friend Jane and Abe Suara. That's on the 3rd of November. It's a Thursday, so hopefully the tickets will be up by the time I post this, but if not, I will post them as soon as I can. And then I'm doing a big EP launch in the Record Room in the Commercial on the 22nd of October, which is going to be fun. So that will be, and that's, I'll have Jane and Abe Suara on support there too. So that's going to be a really good night. I really can't wait for that. I'll have tons of special guests at the Limerick show, hopefully a couple of special guests at the Dublin show, and if I get any more shows in, particularly to do with that project, I will announce them as soon as I can. And so those shows, they're headline shows in small rooms, and that's where I'm at. Anything from a 20-person room to 100 people in a room. That's kind of, I think, I'm not sure what Little Whelan's is. It's their new venue. I don't know. It could be 25 to 50 people. Really not sure. And then I'm doing the Commercial, which I think is about 100 people. Maybe it's a bit more, maybe it's a bit less, but that's where we are. Reason for that, I don't know. I've never tested a gig in Dublin, so I couldn't tell you how many tickets I myself could shift in Dublin. Limerick, I've played some support slots, but I've again never tested one. I've tested a gig here in Nina during the height of COVID, and we did 61 tickets. And I mean, this was the day before we shut down, Christmas 2020. So I think it's 2020 or 2021, whichever one. But you know, even like, yeah, we did 61 for a finish. I think about 8 more on the door on the night, and I capped it at like 100 seated, and it was really nice in the Kenyan in Nina, and about half of them turned up, which is fair enough because like COVID was rife. So I have that kind of ticket sales during COVID to compare to for the Limerick gig. But again, you know, I know a lot more people in Limerick, and I've worked with a lot more people in Limerick, and it's just a bigger area than Nina. So hopefully we can, you know, fill the room, see what happens. Should be fun. And then other than that, like, I'm very much busking as much as I can. I'm doing 1 to 2 days a week at least, probably in Galway or Grafton Street, you know, Galway and Shop Street or Grafton Street in Dublin. And that's just, I'm kind of at a place now where I can do my set and gather good crowds and really like connect and play some of my own songs. And I find that like I go live on TikTok when I'm busking, so you know the live does a lot better on TikTok when you're in a lot more atmosphere, and it's just harder to do in the smaller towns. And I bring like CDs with me, and you know, hopefully people like it enough they might grab a CD, and you know, then they've invested in your music pretty much physically, which is all you can ask for. But also I have a big sign that I talked about before, and you know, they can check out my socials, they can see if I'm playing any gigs. And I just find for me that's the best way to connect. It's far better connecting. I mean, if I play a pub gig and I have my kind of promotion sign in front of me and I have CDs out, unless I'm playing in like a place that has tourists, there is no one really going to like look me up, or you know, maybe some of them do if they see I'm live on TikTok while I'm playing. Then they're like, "Oh, are you live? And what's your name?" And you get a bit of that. But you know, on the street, man, I've had some days where like you could come off and you have, I don't know, I remember, I think I played in Limerick one day, and I had that gig at Christmas, and I came home and people that had met me that day had bought 4 tickets for the gig. So, you know, it's not about money or anything. It's just actually about, oh, they like me enough to go and want to come see me live. And that's the dream, really. So that's why I'm busking as much as I can. And then, you know, I'm in that place where I'm playing a couple of support slots. So I've done the Cork Opera House, which was crazy. That was with Shwadi Wadi. And that came just because literally I had hired some local people to do sound and lighting at my gig, and then they had been providing sound and lighting for one of the Shawadi shows, and the support dropped out for the Cork show, and they rang me and were like, "Can you fill this support today?" And I was like, "Yeah, 100%, I'll be there." That night, and I literally hopped in the van and went to Cork, and that was probably one of the nicest support gigs I've ever done. It was like the crowd were just so amazing. And I've also opened for Hermitage Green, and that was a tough gig. It was an amazing gig, sold out, but like as a support act and you have people coming in walking past you, it was quite tough. But I also have to take responsibility because I learned so much from that gig as the opener, that the Cork Opera House gig then went so well, because what I should have done was kind of, played my first couple of songs and then had a song that would really connect with any audience, you know, a cover, obviously, and then have a song of mine that I could teach the crowd to sing along with quite quickly. And I didn't do that. It was in the Source in Thurles, and I didn't do that. And like, you know, I kind of came away from the gig and I was like, oh, there's nothing I could have done there to make that show any better. You know, I definitely tried my best, and it was just a situation where, you know, people are walking in front of you as you start, and that's quite off-putting. And really, I could have done better. So that's me putting my hands up and saying, hey, sometimes you have to look back and reflect at these gigs. And like the set still went pretty well, but you know, you learn. if you look back and say, hey, you know, I like got to take responsibility here and say, could have done a bit better, and make the gig about the crowd more so than myself. That's always the win, right? If you make the experience about them and not me, you know, because like, why do bands get big light shows? Why do bands spend loads on pyro? You know, Ed Sheeran's tour, that circular spinning stage, and how much he runs around and shrinks the stadium. That isn't for him. That's for the audience that have paid to see the show. So yeah, I learned a lot from that show, to be honest. I did a lovely opening gig for Susan O'Neill in the amphitheatre in Clock, and that was a lovely gig too. Crowd were amazing, and really like open and receptive to a new artist that they probably never heard of. So yeah, done some good support slots. Played Electric Picnic for the very first time this year, luckily, and again that was lovely, and kind of all those support slots and all the busking kind of just works for that kind of festival thing. You know, you figure out how to connect with a crowd, you become a bit more human, and you know, again, I suppose that's why I want to do the podcast. I want to figure out how to just talk honestly and be able to connect more with people, because I think that's where I feel my best, is when I'm over the nervousness, and it's not about, oh, I hope they like me, or I hope, it's just about, hey, like, this is me and this is what I believe in, and hopefully you can take something from this. That's what it's all about. All of the music, I find it comes back to, hey, this is what I believe in. I think someone might find common ground here in these values, and yeah, let's talk, let's connect. And just back on the support slot kind of vibe, the support slot side of the industry. After announcing, kind of, I put up on my Instagram yesterday, I've got some headline shows to announce, you know, because I don't want to announce them without the ticket link, other than announcing it here. And I said, I've got some headline shows to announce. Really excited, and you know, playing some venues I've never got to play before, and I've always dreamed of playing. And the love, like, I couldn't believe it, just from that, the amount of people that wrote to me and stuff, but the amount of people wrote to me and saying, hey, any chance I could open or support. And you know, unfortunately for these shows, like the Whelan's gig is a co-headliner, so it's just three of us. We're all going to do pretty long set, I'd say probably 40 minutes each, I would imagine, 30-40 minutes. So the point I'm saying is, the co-headliners shows, I can't give any support slots, because we're just going to play our sets and we're going to move on. And then the show in Limerick, the EP launch, I'm having Jane and Abe Suara play sport on those two. So unfortunately this time around I don't have any sport slots to offer people. But what I did do, I wrote back to everyone and I said, thank you so much for reaching out. And you know, I've a local show hopefully to set up later in the year. So I said to one of them, hey, like, you can definitely open that. I've promised the main support slot to someone else, but you can definitely open that, because you know, it's someone I know. And I get it, like, I've had to reach out and give those messages, but I also realize how little support slots there are now, and I'm way more grateful for the, you know, the slots I have gotten. And like, you know, I suppose compassionate towards headline bands, they must get hit up, like, you know, I think of the Irish headliners, they must get hundreds of messages from everyone trying to get on. And I guess also I want to say that maybe doing support slots aren't my focus anymore as much. You know, I'll still reach out and try the odd one, but I mean, I should really be spending that time releasing and, you know, writing, and then trying to put on shows. That should be ultimately the aim. So yeah, it's been a learning curve. Just even like that was yesterday, and it was just on my mind all the way. So I was in Galway busking, and then I played a gig in Galway last night, a cover gig, and you know, the messages were floating in kind of in between the busking and the actual gig, and I was like, whoa, I have so much empathy for headline bands now, You know, like, because you at some stage you just probably couldn't write back, right? Or you just give it to your friends that you know, you like their music, and maybe they came up with you, so you want to give back to them. Because that's how I feel. I've so many friends in the industry, um, that I want to play and to write, to lift them up like they've lifted me up. Yeah, so much empathy now to anyone in that position of trying to help, but then not having the time slots or the sports slots to do it. But yeah, but it's also something I do want to kind of do. I want to help other artists put on their own shows and build their careers. And I think anybody will tell you that knows me, anybody that reaches out like I do, I give them as much time a day as I can, um, because I know how hard it is, man. I know how hard it is to stay motivated and to stay positive, because there's just days where you feel like, God, uh, am I good enough? I suppose really comes down to, and to be honest, we all are. It doesn't really come down to being good enough. It comes down to consistency and staying with it long enough to figure out how to connect. And I think that's been the main thing to keep me positive. So if anybody or anyone's busking, or anyone is writing songs, or anyone is trying to be creative and trying to make a living off of being creative, or not even a living, but trying to make a go of it and seeing what they can do, I think consistency will beat talent. It'll beat a creative splurt. But that's something I will get into in a later date, I suppose. Let me see if I have anything else to finish out here. I don't really. That's kind of it. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out. Dawn Music on all platforms. And I hope this gave somebody some sort of insight into what it's like to be a busker, and to be writing your own music. And any suggestions on the next episode, yeah, please do reach out. Anybody sending out messages for looking for support acts and stuff, this is what I want to say. I will take rejection so much better now, after having to write back to, I think it's 17 people, and say I'm so sorry. Like, this is the situation. But I hope in some situation in the future I can have you on a bill. And that's what it's all about, really. It's just, hopefully I can get to a place and give back and really actually live up to that word. Yeah, fingers crossed. So, yeah, rejection is nothing anymore when I reach out for a sports slot. Anyway, thank you all so much. Episode 2 coming soon.